Hello everybody and welcome to another Destiny build video. Today we have a pretty fun one here. This is going to utilize the best aspect of Titan Stasis, which is Cryoclasm. This is going to allow you to just instantly shatter crystals, frozen targets, everything, while using a fun exotic that's not very commonly used. And that's going to be Salvation's Grip. There will be other choices and we'll get into that in a little bit. But this build is extremely fun, allowing you to shatter everything and just go absolutely crazy with stasis, which is my personal favorite element in the game. So if you want to recreate this build, let me show you how right now. So to create this build, we're going to start with our exotic of choice. That is going to be the Hoarfrost-Z. Hoarfrost-Z is going to replace our barricade with a wall of stasis crystals that will slow nearby targets. Now from my test though, it will actually completely freeze nearby targets, not slow. But continuing on, standing behind this barricade will grant you and your allies increased weapon reload speed, stability, and range. Now personally, that is not the focus of this build. That's probably going to have no bearing on anything, because we're actually going to be using this just for the fact that we can spawn stasis crystals with our class ability. So that's going to play into our Cryoclasm focus, is that ways we're going to be able to use that to shatter them and deal a lot of damage. Now for our stats here, we're going to want a 100 in grenade, a 100 in class, and the rest is up to you. It depends whether you would like more super like I have, whether you want more melee abilities, more health on a pickup of an orb, or more damage with your weapons. So that's going to just be entirely up to you. A 100 grenade and a 100 class is the only two that are essential to this build, since those will be our two ways of spawning crystals with our abilities, and we're going to want to have the upkeep on those as much as possible. Now for our weapons here, we're going to start with our exotic of choice, which is going to be the Salvation's Grip grenade launcher. This is going to allow us to hold the fire button to charge up a massive projectile. And when that projectile makes impact on the ground, it's going to spawn a ton of stasis crystals and freeze nearby targets. This is going to be amazing for this build, as you saw in the beginning clip. We're going to be able to just shatter so many enemies. We're going to be able to go through literally tons of enemies and annihilate them. It is extremely strong with Cryoclasm, and obviously this is a great way of playing into that fantasy of spawning stasis crystals and shattering as many as possible. Now, you can use Aegir Scepter if you would like here in this kinetic slot. You can also use something like Wicked Implement. Weapons that will slow and freeze are pretty good choices with this build, since they're going to still help you bring back your Hoarfrost barricade, which will allow you to spawn more crystals anyway. So a little more on that when we get to the fragments in our stasis subclass. But other good choices for legendary weapons would be anything with, say, Headstone and Rhyme Stealer. There's also a new weapon that has a perk that will allow you to spawn stasis crystals on rapid kills. That's also a pretty good choice. So any stasis based weapon that's going to allow you to get frost armor or spawn stasis crystals are going to be your go-tos. So moving on over here to our stasis subclass. We're going to start obviously with our super. We only have one choice, but it's also the best choice because of how many crystals you're able to spawn, and that is going to make this build so amazing. Especially when you enter that super, you basically will be immortal for that whole super, and will be able to do exactly what this build wants you to do, but just tenfold. Now for your abilities, it does not matter which barricade you throw on, because the Hoarfrost-Z is going to replace the cooldown to a towering barricade. So you can throw on a rally if you would like. You can throw on a towering if you would like. I just leave rally on, but it gets overridden anyway. For your jump, of course, go ahead with whatever you're most comfortable with. For your melee, you only have one choice, but it's a pretty good choice because not only does it let you fly across the map, but it will also attach a stasis explosive to them. So that's pretty nice when you hit an enemy with it. For our grenade, of course, we're going to go with Glacier Grenade. Glacier Grenade is going to allow us to spawn a wall of crystals, and that's going to play into our aspect, which is going to be, of course, Cryoclasm. Cryoclasm is going to enhance our slide distance, and it's also going to allow us that when we slide into stasis crystals or frozen targets, it will immediately shatter them and nearby frozen targets. This is going to make our build, this is literally what our entire build is focused on, is Cryoclasm. It's going to allow us to just instantly shatter everything. That is why we're going to have every way of spawning grenades, or I should say glaciers and glacier grenades, and obviously just any ways of spawning crystals and even freezing targets. Now, of course, we need some survivability with this build, so we're going to use Tectonic Harvest as our second aspect. This is going to make us that when we shatter a stasis crystal or a frozen target, it will create stasis shards. This shard grants melee energy, so that's going to help us get back our Shiver Strike a little bit as well. But this is great because while Tectonic Harvest is equipped, picking up stasis shards will grant you frost armor. Stasis shards are pretty amazing, and frost armor is even better. Frost armor gets you like literally 50% damage resistance for 13 seconds, as long as you have on Whisper of Rime. So speaking of fragments, let's go over our fragments of choice. Starting off with the first one will be Whisper of Fissures. Whisper of Fissures is going to increase the damage and size of the burst of stasis when you destroy a stasis crystal or defeat a frozen target. This is obviously going to be a pretty crucial piece. This is going to make us deal more damage when we break those stasis crystals or shatter that frozen target. For our second one, this is going to be Whisper of Refraction. Defeating a slowed or frozen target will grant you class ability energy. Now this is how we're going to get back Hoarfrost barricades like in an insane amount. And this is why Wicked Implement Aegir Scepter is still good choices. Because they will slow and or freeze targets, this will still refund us back our barricade, of course, which will allow us to spawn more crystals. That is why Salvation's Grip is not like the most enforced thing in the world, but obviously it will still be amazing, and I like Salvation's Grip for the fun element and just for the actual like building into the Cryoclasm idea a lot more than the other two options. But of course, anything that slows or freezes is a good choice to go with. Now, obviously, as I showed before, our third fragment is going to be Whisper of Rime. Whisper of Rime is going to enhance our frost armor, allowing it to go from 5 to 8 stacks and allowing it to go up to 13 seconds long. This is going to make it so that it will go up to the 50% damage reduction, making frost armor one of the most elite elemental buffs you can have. And we're going to pair that with Whisper of Conduction. Whisper of Conduction is going to make nearby stasis shards track to our position. This is very helpful. I know this one is kind of like you can swap this out if you really want to, but this is helpful because when we go ahead and get Tectonic Harvest like shards from Cryoclasm by shattering the stasis crystals or frozen targets, that doesn't exactly mean that we're going to be like standing on the shards where they're created, and we might not even realize it or go back to pick them up. So this is going to help us that when we create them, they will just track over to us and be picked up, since we still will be close to them because obviously we're extremely close sliding into the crystals or frozen target. And this is going to allow those to just come over to us rather than us having to focus in the middle of a battle to turn around, go pick it up. That way we can get our frost armor. Instead, they will just come to us, give us our frost armor while we go ahead and just slay out. Now, every good build is built up on armor mods. So let's go over them, starting here with the helmet. The helmet, we're going to use a harmonic siphon. Since we should be using stasis weapons non-stop, we're going to want this one on. This is going to allow us to spawn some orbs of power when we get rapid kills with stasis weapons. And for your other two slots, you can go ahead and put on whatever you would like. If you're using Salvation's Grip like me, then you're probably going to want 2 heavy ammo finders to help get you back some ammo to it even better, more quick, everything of that sort. And we're going to move over here to the arms. We're going to use Momentum Transfer and Bolstering Detonation. These two are going to make it that when we cause damage with a grenade, which should proc when we shatter our Glacier Grenade crystals, this will give us back some melee and class ability cooldown, so help us get back Shiver Strike and Hoarfrost-Z Barricade. We're also going to put on a Firepower, because getting a kill with a Glacier Grenade Shatter is going to generate an orb of power, so we might as well create some extra orbs by doing that. Now on our actual Hoarfrost-Z, we're going to go ahead and just put on the resistance mods that matches the activity we're doing. If you're doing an activity that has something like all solar damage or maybe 25 to 50% bonus solar incoming damage, then throw on some solar resistances, same if it was void and same if it was arc, maybe even stasis or strand. So you're going to want to just put on whatever resistance mods match the activity that you're doing. For your boots, we're going to put on a Better Already and an Insulation. We're also going to go ahead and put on an Innervation. This is going to make it so when we pick up an orb, our health will immediately begin regenerating. This is going to help us get back a good chunk of health. And we're going to pair that with Insulation and Innervation. So that way, when we pick up an orb, we will get our Hoarfrost-Z Barricade and our Glacier Grenade energy back to try and get them back a little bit faster. And last but not least, for our armor mods here on the class item, we're going to use Reaper, so that was when we use that Hoarfrost-Z Barricade. we will be able to get an orb on our next weapon, Final Blow, and then we're going to use an Outreach and a Bomber for the same reason that we're using Innervation and Insulation. So that was when we use our Hoarfrost-Z Barricade, we're going to get back our Glacier Grenade, and this way we get back a little Shiver Strike. Now this build is future-proof, meaning it is just as good as you've seen without artifact mods. So when the Implement of Curiosity gets rotated out in Renegades, you do not have to worry because you do not need any of these mods to make the build work. But of course, these artifact mods will enhance the build. So we're going to start over here with which ones you should have on. One with Frost will be the first one. This is going to make it so while you have Frost Armor, Stasis weapons will gain increased reload speed and stability. This is good no matter which weapon you have on, honestly, whether it is, Salvation's Grip, Wicked Implement, Aegir Scepter, it really doesn't matter. Now for our second column here, you're going to want Fever and Chill if you're running a stasis weapon that can deal precision hits. If you're solely using Salvation's Grip, obviously not going to really work, but if you are using something like Wicked Implement or even Aegir Scepter, this will be a great one. The next good artifact mod is going to be Frost Renewal. While you have Frost Armor, taking critical damage will release a burst that freezes nearby combatants and will grant Frost Armor to you and nearby allies. This is a really good one of those artifact mods that really enhance the build, allowing you to literally freeze enemies nearby just when you hit critical damage. So that's going to be pretty sweet. And last for this column is going to be Refresh Threads. Picking up an elemental pickup, aka Stasis Shards, is going to grant energy to your least charged ability. So that's going to be a great one because we're going to get a ton of Stasis Shards, so might as well get a ton of energy back. Now, for the next column, we only have one that is actually going to be really helpful with this build, and that's going to be Elemental Coalescence. Defeating targets will have a chance to create an elemental pickup, matching your equipped super element, aka Stasis Shards. And for our last column, we're going to use Shield Crush and Elemental Overdrive. So Shield Crush is going to make it that when we have Frost Armor, our melee will regenerate faster and deal increased damage. And Elemental Overdrive is going to make it that when we pick up an elemental pickup, we will gain increased damage to weapons of the same element. So when we pick up those Stasis Shards, we're going to get increased damage to our Stasis weapons. Now, if you're not using Salvation's Grip, if you're using either Wicked Implement or just a legendary Stasis weapon like that has Rhyme Stealer or Headstone or something of that sort, then you're going to probably want to swap Shield Crush out with Frigid Glare. So that way, while you have Frost Armor, Stasis Precision Final Blows cause combatants to release a freezing burst. Obviously, Salvation's Grip is unable to do so, but Frigid Glare is a better artifact mod than Shield Crush, especially with Frost Armor and for this build. So that is why if you're able to get precision hits with Stasis weapons, then you're going to want Frigid Glare instead. But of course, if you're not using that, if you just have Salvation's Grip on, then you'll want Shield Crush. So that one is up to you depending on which weapons you use. So that is how you're going to recreate this fun Stasis build. This one is going to do pretty well in high-end content. For what you're seeing right now is actually in a master shooting range at a 40 power disadvantage. So literally just 5 shy of mythic difficulty. So as you can see, it holds its own pretty well. Now this build is a fun build, and yet again, it can absolutely be taken into higher endgame content. But don't forget in this build, because we have a habit of doing so, that the super is a big part of this build. As you can see, I got completely yeeted off the tower, and I was able to come back with the super and completely annihilate. So never be afraid to use your super and of course incorporate it into your build, and obviously use it all the time, I should say, because it will be a very good help. So if you like the sound of having max Frost Armor, you like the sound of everything that comes with this build, tons of Shatter, like I said, Frost Armor, everything between, then this is going to be a great build for you. So let me know what you think about this build in the comments below. And while you're down there, if you like the video, why not leave a like, subscribe, comment, share, all that good jazz, because it tells me you like to see these build videos. With all that, I hope you have fun with this build. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And as always, I will see you around the tower.